some of y'all watched part one where I showed the meal that I had between breakfast and lunch and how lunch is pretty optional for me. I normally just hydrate and have some energy boosting food for lunch. So today I did not actually have lunch because my carbs in my second meal was at least 70 grams of carbs. So, and my fat was so low this morning, so my energy was pretty high. Um, so I did not actually have an actual meal for lunch. If you want to know my entire diet plan that's keeping me very energized, in which my belly is going down, most of the fat that's leaving my body is from my belly only. So this is what my dinner looks like. What I have here is cod that I cooked with just a little bit of butter in the pan, and I try not to overcook it. Okay, so I do have some greens here that somebody cooked, and I have no more than a cup of rice that somebody cooked. It's no more than a cup, y'all. So if it is, it's only a cup and a half, which will not put me over my carb count, will not put me over 135 grams of carbs a day, because I actually worked out today and I did go for a walk. Okay. So I am having a small glass of wine, which is sangria. Okay. Red wine. So this is my dinner today. A piece of cod, no more than a cup and a half of rice. Notice there's not another carb in this bowl. Notice you don't see carrots or potatoes or any type of carb, because I'm getting my carbs from my rice. Rice burns pretty fast in your body. So if you're going to have rice, you probably should have it with your dinner so it burns pretty quick in your sleep. You don't have to drink wine. Nobody cares, okay? Take the lesson. You know, you don't have to. You can actually substitute this for cranberry juice. Period. Okay. So, you said alcohol is banned in your city. Okay. Let me finish my lesson. Okay. So, my total count of carbs a day is going to be somewhere between 125 grams and 130 carbs today, which is pretty good. But my carbs are going to be lower because I was working out. So I did use a lot of my carbs. So actually I'm going to sleep with maybe about only 100 grams of carbs in my body. Maybe not even that, since I'm eating my dinner early at 4 o'clock. And I'm not eating after 5. So basically I'm going to get in ketosis early. Okay? I'm going to get in ketosis early. If you're having dinner with carbs, like a grain or rice, you should have that dinner early. Okay? Once again, if you are having any carby food with your dinner, like rice, try to have it early. Now, notice I don't have onions and tomatoes in here, because greens have toxins in them that fight you. So I don't want to add another toxic vegetable in here, because it'll give me inflammation in my sleep. And what will happen is your body will go into immune boosting. It will switch up and work on healing rather than burning fat. So what you don't want to do is add too many acidic vegetables in your dinner. Like, pick one and that's it. So leafy vegetables are toxins and acidic. Okay. I never eat them in the morning. I never eat them at lunch, because they will give me inflammation and slow me down. Leafy vegetables that have toxins in them, really should be eaten when you don't have a lot of work to do, because they do make you sluggish because of the toxins. Okay. The fish that you are seeing is actually cod. So I put Old Bay in it and a little bit of pepper. And I put a little bit of pan little bit of butter in the pan. No, like a half a tablespoon. So, and I poured some of the butter out and put water in so that there's not that much fat in the pan. You never want to boost your fat intake around dinner, because then after dinner you'll start getting hungry. If your fat intake get too high at dinner, if you go over 30 grams of fat at dinner, you're going to be craving a couple hours after dinner. So be very mindful of how much fat you're taking with your dinner in comparison to how much fat you already had in your day. So overall, my fat intake today has been no more than 12. Okay, at the highest, if that, because I got my fat from my apple butter, and the rest of my food was very low fat. So my fat intake has been pretty low. When your energy is very high, normally your fat intake is very low. You're never really high energy with a high fat and high protein at the same time, or high carbs. You'll normally get fatigue if everything's high at the same time. Okay, so, all right, so I'm kind of helping y'all to understand. So try not to switch from high fat, high protein, high carb, high fat diet. Don't switch. Be consistent. Pick one and keep it. So I like carb loading on my second meal. I do not eat carbs on my first meal because I like to extend my ketosis time. Okay. All right. Somebody's just spamming, so let me just put them in timeout because I don't know what they're doing. So I want to, so basically my overall protein intake is at least 60 grams. Now, I know some of y'all saying, no, that's low. When you have fat to lose, there is actually muscle in your fat. Back in the day, people were eating 60 grams of fat and was not losing muscle. 60 grams of fat is like pretty much the minimum if you're already fat, and you won't lose any muscle. So my protein intake has been at least 60 grams today. So the wine is about 120 calories. The cod is no more than 200 calories. The rice is about 250 calories. And the greens is no more than 60 calories. So overall, 350 to, this is about I would say 550 calorie meal, which is good because my carb loading, my second meal was only about 400 calories. So that's 900 calories. Okay. That's only 900 calories total plus the pork chop I had this morning. So I'm at about 1,400 calories. Plus I walked today and I exercise. So I'm definitely at least 200 under my calorie maintenance. So as y'all see what I'm saying. So I want to get into talking about this here. These are foods that people eat and they say they make me fat. But I'm going to tell y'all how to eat these foods and not want to eat a lot more food and not get fat. I'm going to explain how you really supposed to eat these box foods that you get at Family Dollar. These are poor man's food. But I'm going to tell y'all how to include them a part of your diet. So give me a second, y'all. Let me put my dinner in the ice box because I don't want it to go bad. Okay, I don't want my dinner going bad. So we're going to get to this. So let's say you're eating this, okay? You're like, I eat instant oatmeal. The thing about instant oatmeal is it often has high sugar. Okay? You may not think it's high. You may be like, oh, it only got 12 grams of sugar. But if you eat 2 packs, if you're carb loading with instant oatmeal and you're eating 2 packs, That means you're getting 34 grams of sugar. See? This means you really should not have uh, glucose fruit on the side. You should probably have Gatorade or keto-friendly fruit like clementines. You don't want to eat a full cup of OJ and this at the same time because it comes with sugar. So this oatmeal is like you're drinking OJ and eating oatmeal because of the 12 grams of sugar per pack. So let's say you're like, yeah, I'm a carb load. Let's say I was going to carb load on my second meal. Okay. My drink should be electrolyte water or snake juice or some type of low glucose drink. And I'll explain why in a minute. When you eat instant oatmeal, you got to remember that it still has fat, okay, in it. Now, if you're going to eat the carbs, 2 packs of oatmeal with the 34 grams of sugar, then you would have to keep your fat low all day. You would be on more of a sugar diet. You can't really raise your fat much when your sugar is so high. You either have high sugar or high carbs. You can't have both. You can't have really high fat, high sugar, and high carbs at the same time. You can't do that, okay? You're going to go on eating binges, cravings, and you're going to notice that you're gaining weight. So if I went to carb load on this, I would definitely pretty much keep my fat really low that day because my body is having a high amount of sugar. So I would be able to have fruit the rest of my day at another time of day, but I would have to crash my fat. So I'd be better off eating fish rather than fatty meat with my other meals. I would be better off cooking my food in low fat oil or zero fat oil and just avoiding fat most of my day. So my body is not confused because I put a lot of sugar in there and fat at the same time. Carbs operate like sugar in your body. So you see, these carbs have 32 grams of sugar. 32 carbs per pack. Plus the 12 grams of added sugar per pack. Per pack. See, people forget to count per pack. So that would be 24 grams of sugar total in a 2-pack oatmeal. And then you got 32 grams of sugar per pack. And that's another 64. So technically, you've actually had about 80 grams of carbs. At least 70 grams of carbs, 75 grams of carbs. If you include the sugar as a carb. Remember that carbs act the same as added sugar. When carbs are broken down, they're processed just like sugar. So these 2 packs would literally be like, I had 75 grams of carbs. That's wild. So people say, oh, I can eat my 2 cups of rice later, or, my potato and then potato chips and things like that. And then they go over that 135 grams of carbs. They start craving and they start gaining weight. Their body starts to store fat. If you go over 135 grams of carbs and you're not training hard, you're not really training hard to failure. If you're not training to failure and you have more than 135 grams of carbs in your body is going to store fat because carbs always raise cortisol. They always do. What you don't want is your body to have excess sugar to release when you go to sleep, because then it's going to take a long time in the night for your body to go in ketosis and for that cortisol to drop. Okay? So what you get to have, if you're going to eat these two, is you get to have very low sugar, low glucose, keto-friendly drink or electrolyte or snake juice. So I would have like electrolyte water with lemon and maybe some clementine in it, because clementine is keto-friendly and like I think low sugar. So you might want to look up the fruits that diabetics can eat. So you want to, put a little bit in your drink and then have that on the side of your 2 oatmeal packs. All right. So let's get into this. Some people say, I like my fruit grain bars. Let me tell you how to eat this. Now, remember, if you're eating the 2 packs of oatmeal for carb loading, you can't be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have another 2 packs of oatmeal later on, and you didn't like train hard. You're going to pretty much be almost over 135 grams of carbs, because remember, you're probably adding vegetables to your diet, which also have carbs. And this particular oatmeal has added sugar, which acts like carbs. It's no different than putting carbs in your body. So you're pushing it. If you have another 2 packs that day, you're pushing it. You're so, you're at risk at the end of the day of being over 135 grams of carbs. So you're going to start craving. The very next day, you're going to have excess sugar to release. And when your body does that deep purge of that excess sugar, you're going to feel like you're starving and you're going to overeat. So let's talk about how to eat these bars. Okay. These bars here have sugar in them. Okay, they have sugar. Let's get it. Let's look at the thingy here. Notice that it only has 1 gram of fat, added fat, but it has total 3 grams of fat, but 12 grams of sugar. Okay, so it's a little bit better than eating the oatmeal. Little bit better than eating the oatmeal. And it gives you less carbs. So you can actually eat 2 of these without even needing to have any fruit. You can actually carb load on these 2, because you would only have 6 grams of fat and you would have 50 grams of carbs, and you would have 22 grams of sugar. So technically you would probably have overall 65 grams of sugar in your body after the carbs break down with the added sugar. You'd probably have about 65 grams of sugar in your body. So that would be good. You would have a boost, but you wouldn't be able to eat fruit on the side. You have 65 grams of sugar overall in your body. Okay, see what I'm saying? For the extra energy, you would probably need, as I said, something that hydrates you, because hydration, electrolyte hydration does give you energy. So let's say you're trying to be real cheap. You're like, yeah, I'm cheap. Poor man stuff. You can actually throw this in. One of these in, which is a hydration cheap drink. So you can just throw this in. This would be your drink. See, this would be your drink. And the reason why you can have it is, look, 0 fat, only 4 grams of carbs, and you don't see a high amount of sugar. You don't see that. Okay, I don't see it. It does give you potassium there, which will give you energy. Vitamin B12 gives you energy. So you can have this. And this would be like you carb loaded. But you can't eat nothing else. This would actually be a meal. I know that's wild. I find that 65 to 75 grams of carbs as a second meal for carb loading, it literally will get you pretty much through lunch. You might not even want no lunch. Most likely you won't even want lunch. This is if your morning meal was mostly protein and no fat. So if your morning meal is like, two pieces of cod, some hydration water, and tea, then this would make a really good second meal for carb loading. Your energy will literally be high. I tested this many times. So these are alternate ways you could do it. So tomorrow, if I be like, I don't want the apple butter bread with the carrots, I can do this. Not the drink, but just this. This would be my drink. I could put lemon in there, lemon in the water as well. Okay? So this is going to give me energy. When you're carb loading, you're basically sugar loading. That's what you're doing. So when you because there's only 25 grams of carb per bar, it's okay to have these with sugar in it. Okay? A lot of people only count the carbs. They forget to count the sugar. Okay? Because the carbs operate the same in your body as sugar. So all you got to do is count the sugar too. And then you pretty much know, like, okay, you can estimate, just round up. Be like, oh, I probably got, with these two, 65 grams of sugar in my body. So I can run on that for a couple of hours. I can run on that. So, yeah. So I showed y'all. Now, of course, if I went to have dinner, my dinner, this is not really high fat. Okay? There's not a high fat in this. There's 3 grams of fat per bar. So total, this would be 6 grams of fat as my carb loading meal. If my morning meal was 95% protein with maybe some leafy vegetables and some hydration water, electrolyte water, mineral water, then my morning protein was like super low. My morning fat was super low. So my morning fat would be like 5 grams of fat. That means before dinner, I will have only had, 6, 5. I will have only had 11 grams of fat. I will be doing pretty good. My body will not be storing fat. The fat intake would be low enough where it doesn't conflict with the sugar intake. So all I would have to do is keep my fat low for my third meal too. So my third meal, I could probably put 5 grams of fat in it. Okay, my last meal can have 5 grams of fat. This would put me at 16 grams of fat in one day. That means that my body is not going to put on fat, because the fat you eat is the fat you wear. My fat is so low that my body's not going to put on fat, especially if I had some walking and I, walked around, I did a little exercise or whatever. So yeah, most people, this is what they do. They have a bar and they have some protein on the side. That's what most people do. And that causes confusion between the sugar of the carbs and the protein. So keep the sugary stuff, the things that actually process like sugar, keep them separate in a separate meal. When you're eating it in high amount, just take the protein out. Have that as its own meal. So pretty much save your protein. That's what I'm doing. I save my protein for my first meal and my last meal. My middle meal, my second meal, is my carb load meal. If I want additional protein, I can have it as my third meal and my fourth meal. So for lunch, I could have sardines and maybe a little bit of carrots or whatever and some spinach. And then for dinner, I can have a piece of cod like I'm having now with my rice and my spinach. Now, there's a reason why I have rice in my dinner bowl, even though I carb loaded today. My carb count was low enough for me to have rice with my dinner. My carb count was only 65 grams. So I have enough carb left to have some rice with my dinner. Plus, I worked out today and I went for walks. And so, yeah. So basically, I'm not going to have excess sugar to be released tomorrow morning. I'm probably going to get in ketosis really, really early if I eat my dinner within the next 30 minutes. Okay? So I explained to y'all how to like eat poor man's food without starting to crave more food and overeating. The poor man's food actually need poor man carbs. They need to be by themselves. Like, don't even bother to put the protein with it. Just be like, that's it. I have a family member that's losing weight, and this is also how they do it. They only eat, they like to carb load on their first meal because they got to do labor work at 7 in the morning. Okay? So they will have like 2 grams of bars, and they might have a banana with it. Because they're a man, they can have more calories than me. So this is what they'll pack to work. They'll take 2 of these and a banana and some juice. Now, the reason why they like to get all their sugar in early is because they often work through their lunch break and they're lifting stuff a lot all day. So pretty much when they do eat their second and third meal or their dinner meal, they don't even have any fruit. They don't have any glucose. So, yeah. This is if they're working. They'll take 2 of these, a banana, and like a little mini OJ, and they'll run on that all day at work, y'all. Literally. They basically will carb load on their first meal and run on it all day and then come home and eat protein. Like, so 8 hours later, they come home and they literally will like put protein in their body then. I do mine differently. I like to front load protein and then on my second meal carb load. And then I will end load protein again on my third meal or my third and fourth meal. If I went to the gym and I was training real hard, I would have a third meal that would have protein, and I would have a fourth meal that would have protein. I would have a fourth meal included. Okay? All right. Keep in mind, as I said, if your sugar is high and your carbs is high, you should keep that fat low. Because there's going to be conflict. Your body's not going to know whether you're doing a high fat diet or a high sugar. Okay? You're going to have high and lows if you do it that way. You want to just be like a powerhouse. So, some people, they just run on protein all day. That's their business. That's what they do. Some people, they literally run on high fat all day and low protein. I prefer to do the DASH diet. So this is how you would do the DASH diet. Okay? All right, y'all. If y'all enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know. The DASH diet often have carb loading in it and low fat. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. I got to have my dinner. I'm going to pack up this stuff here. And while I'm packing this up, I'm going to talk to y'all. So, yeah. The only thing about eating these is that if you were eating too much sugar the day before, if you was like way over 135 grams of carbs the day before, you don't want to eat these the next day. You still have sugar your body needs to release in your pee. So let's say you was like binge eating carbs and sugar the day before. You do not eat sugary carbs the next day. You should probably eat very low carbs and very low sugar the next day. So, don't even have a day where you're binging on carbs and you're overeating carbs or sugar. Don't even do that, because it's going to like cost you a day of enjoying carbs and sugar. All right. And I love my grains, so I don't want to go a whole day without grains. So this is why I don't binge eat grain carbs anymore. I don't have a day where I'm binge eating though. Because you would have to wait till your body peed a lot of the sugar out before you can actually have carbs again. Most people, they were like, oh, they'll say, I'm going to do a reset and I'm going to do a water fast for 2 days, basically trying to get that excess sugar to come out. So they're not in like craving energy when they do eat again. They're also like throwing their body into fat burning with low sugar so that when they do eat again, they're not craving and their body's burning fat. But you can avoid all that. Just make sure you keep your fat at a point where you know it's definitely lower than your sugar intake and your carbs. Most of the time, once you get into like 25 grams of sugar with carb loading, at that point, you're at risk of storing fat. And you're at risk of craving as well. Okay, having fatigue. So I try not to have more than 25 grams of fat. I try to avoid that 25 grams of fat mark. Because I feel like when that happens, it's like, I think I'm starting to crave a little bit. And I don't like that. So, yep. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for listening. If you've been enjoying the videos, these weight loss videos and me sharing my diet, feel free to let me know. My last video got like 600 views today, so that was pretty good. Watch part 1 I did today, talking about how one of the ways I like the carb load, sugar load. Just say sugar load. Yeah. Now, of course, you can get some organic oatmeal that don't have fat in it, that don't have sugar in it, and you can manually add the sugar so you have more control of how much sugar you're eating. You could do it that way. But if you're doing poor man's to save money, then you want to do what I said. Okay? Always remember, when you're eating poor man carb loading, the last thing you want to do is be eating a bunch of fruit on the side or like a tall glass of juice, because it already has sugar in it, like you're drinking fruit. So your drink needs to be low glucose, but electrolyte hydration. So you might want to have Gatorade, energy boosting Gatorade on the side, something like that. Now, some people, like with writers, like to have beet juice, but beets is an underground growing vegetable, so keep in mind it is still carby. So, that will still increase your carbs. Always keep in mind that when it says amount of carbs on the box, it's per pack. People forget that. Okay? When they say fat, it's per pack, even with this. Okay? All right, bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.